my channel. This week I wanted to show you guys a couple of the mock-ups I've been making. I've been sewing a lot this week, but I haven't actually got any finished projects, so I've got a couple of things going at once, which I've never done before, and it's a little bit of a mind game trying to keep momentum on multiple projects at once. A little while ago I bought some black linen cotton blend from Spotlight, and I've actually had it sitting in my cupboard for quite a while. I've just had it sitting there kind of staring at me because I love wearing pants, but that's the hardest area of my body to actually fit. People who have made pants will understand this dilemma. There's just a lot of different things to consider, and pants patterns are often made to a standard fit, and not everyone likes to wear their pants that way. So if you like to wear it a little bit looser or a little bit tighter, there's a lot of fiddling that comes along with that. So in saying that, the pattern that I followed is the McCall's 9376 pattern, and I just made the pants out of that pattern. So this pattern includes a lined jacket, a lined vest, pants, and a bias skirt. So I really like this pants pattern because it's got all the things I like in pants. It's got some pockets, some shaping in the front with pleats, and a zip closure. It also sits quite high-waisted, which I really like in pants. I hate it when they like fall off you, or when you sit down you're worried about everything coming out because it's not high-waisted enough. That's like a personal pet peeve of mine. I picked this up online from a Facebook buy swap and sell group, and I think I picked up for like $3 or something like that. After I got it, I went ahead and started cutting out the first mock-up, which I made out of some old sheets that my mum kindly donated to my cause. I'm not sure if I took footage of this first pair, just because I was trying to figure out how the construction went together, because I've never made pants. I kind of wanted to learn how to do them during my mock-up, and then also make a mock-up to do adjustments, if that makes sense. So when I made this first mock-up, it was exactly as per the pattern instructions, and in the largest size in the pattern, I think, which is the size 14. And a couple of things I learnt there were, like, I didn't put the pockets into the side seams, so they're still open, which is not really useful. And I also learnt about front fly closures and how that's meant to work. I did have a zip in this originally, but it's the same zip that I used for the final pair of pants, so I took it out. In hindsight, this probably wasn't the best fabric to use to do this mock-up, just because it didn't have very much structure and everything kind of warped a lot because it's very, very light material. It's a very old sheet. In terms of the fit, I went online and had a look at some common fitting problems, and I had the horizontal lines in my sort of crotch, and also what they call smile lines further up, which basically means that the scoop of the pants pattern is not deep enough. So on the pants you'll see there's this little scoop, and when I tried the mock-up, that's what wasn't deep enough. So my first mock-up I made for those pants out of the old sheet, I made out of baking paper, and discovered that this is actually really hard to adjust once you've made it, just because baking paper doesn't stick to anything. So if you wanted to use the slash and spread method to adjust the crotch in pants, for example, which is what I wanted to do, it doesn't stick. So you cut it, and then you go to stick to another piece of paper to fill in the spread, and you can't get it to stick. So I did a bit of research and discovered that you can also, well, that some people also trace their pattern pieces on a window. Like, you stick the tissue paper onto the window, then you stick craft paper over the top and trace it. And I tried this method out, and so originally I just traced the original pattern, And then because I knew from the first mock-up that didn't really work for me for the fitting issues that I mentioned, I went ahead and looked up a couple of different ways that you can deal with not having a deep enough crotch seam, and also having a more length overall from one end of your pants all the way around under your crotch to the back, because I found that it was kind of tight and low as well. So what I did then was I cut a slash across the hip point of the pants and spread it by 1 inch at the end, and that helped extend the length of the top section of the pants. And then I also did a slash and spread in the actual crotch scoop on both the front and back pieces. So I did both of these on both the front and back pieces, and this one I think was 3/4 of an inch. Alrighty, so we're on fitting 2 of mock-up number 2, where I tried to put these pleats a little bit deeper. I think I might actually switch them to being darts, just so it doesn't have this funny pull at the bottom. I also need to install the zipper a little bit better so that it pulls over just that little bit more. And then I also want to retain the darts in the back. So it's been a good adjustment for the crotch, but the waist I think was a little bit widened a little bit too much, so I've got to figure out if that needs to change in the pattern piece or if I can just switch these out for darts and maintain the darts in the back. Hopefully that works. With the slash and spread, it meant that the crotch section fit really well, but then the pants sat up where they were meant to sit and my waist was too small. The waist was too big, sorry, so my waist was too small for the pants. And I remedied this by changing, so in the pattern there are pleats in the front, just like one pleat on each side of the zipper, and instead of making them pleats, I made them darts so that I could take up some of the fabric that was sitting in the crotch and also make the waistband just that little bit smaller. And then I also made one dart in the back rather than the 2 because it seemed to fit nicer. So I just did that by pinching out the excess at the center back seam and sewing in a dart. So once I'd done that mock-up, I actually left this project for a little while and started on a dressing gown for a friend of mine. And I had thought that making this dressing gown would be really straightforward. Boy, was I wrong. So I originally started with the Peppermint Magazine's kimono robe. They have a free pattern online for a kimono dressing gown, but the front closure of that is just a couple of ties and it meets in the middle. And what she really wanted, and what I also prefer in dressing gowns, is that kind of wrap dressing gown. So I thought if I could just extend that front part out, that would solve that problem, but it did not solve that problem. So I started out with this little mini mock-up of the top of the dressing gown, and if you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen a few photos of this. So I just made the top half of the kimono just to see what it fit like on her, and I chucked on one of the sleeves, and it worked. Like, it fit her how the Peppermint Magazine's dressing gown is meant to fit, or kimono robe, sorry. But it just stylistically wasn't really there. Like, what she was looking for was more of the wrap front, and I thought it might be annoying if the sleeves were kimono, because you can imagine that getting stuck in like dishwater and like your breakfast and all the rest of it, and I just thought that would be endlessly annoying. So I was confident that I could make those adjustments on the final piece, and that's the biggest mistake I've ever made. Tip to new beginners: you can't just fix it on the fly. You really have to make another mock-up try those changes and then go ahead and use your final fabric. So what ended up happening was I went ahead and made it out of this lovely rayon from Spotlight. And while I was making it, I realized that it's not lined, and rayon, you need to finish the seams or it'll unravel. It's quite, it frays a little, not a heap, but it does fray. And I don't have an overlocker, and I just thought pinking shears might look a little weird on the inside because you could see those seams. I don't know, I just wanted to do French seams. So the combination of the fact that I wanted to change the fit quite drastically to what the pattern had, and also add in French seams and a couple of other adjustments like the neck part. Let's chuck this on. Keeping in mind it's not made for me, so it's good. It's not fitting my body mostly because it's not for me. So I made the wrap portions and that seemed to work pretty well, but the neck just did not work. Like, I don't know what was going on. When I added the neckband, it was like a tiny neck hole, and I don't know, maybe because like in the original pattern you're only meant to meet in the middle, so the neck hole would have a lot more space, whereas when I was doing it I wanted it to wrap, and so you're ending up with this like tiny space for your neck to go through. Also, the sleeves were kimono sleeves, which is fine, but they're huge. They were really big, and that's normal for a kimono dressing gown. And although I love the look, just like practically the changes I wanted to make didn't fit the base pattern. So I tried really hard to change things about the dressing gown when I should have just stopped while I was ahead and gotten a new pattern. And I guess that's one thing I've learned doing this project, that, you know, one, mock up more than once. Like, make your original mock-up, decide what doesn't fit, make another mock-up just to check that what you're going to do to fix that thing does actually fix the thing, and not just make some other issue worse somewhere else, because God, it was annoying. So I'm going to abandon this version of the dressing gown and use this material to make some Ogden camis, I think. I just recently purchased the Ogden cami pattern, and I'm super keen to make some, like, wouldn't that be so cute, some summery singlets out of this fabric. And, you know, I'll probably give one to her just to, like, because I feel horrible that, you know, I said I would make this and it's taking so much longer and it's so much more involved than I had planned it to be, just because I was so stubborn and didn't just go with the pattern. Like, I've only just started sewing. I'm not a freaking genius. It doesn't come naturally to me, so thinking that I can just do things on the fly. Small things, sure. Massive changes to a base pattern, maybe not so much. So what that means now is that I had to go and find a pattern for a dressing gown that was commercially printed, or that I just had to go find a dressing gown that had the basic structural things that I was looking for. So I came up with this Butterick 5963, and I'll include a close-up of the envelope so that you can see all the styles. And obviously the dressing gown is view B or D, depending on the length that you make it. So I'm currently making a mock-up for view D. D? B. What? I'm so confused. B. Making a mock-up for... Oh, jeez. I'm making a mock-up for view B. D is the nightgown that the lady's wearing underneath it. I swear I know what I'm doing. Jesus. I'm making a mock-up for view B, and I've just cut out all the pieces out of white bed sheets, and I'm in the process of constructing it. And the neck piece for this is just confusing as all hell. I don't know how to even put it any differently. I've never made a neckband like the ones that are on dressing gowns, and they seem to be stumping me in every project. So hopefully I figured that one out, but that is another mock-up I'm currently making. Which means, even though today was meant to be, oh, here's a wonderful dressing gown and I made it from the Peppermint Magazine pattern, that's not the case. And for a little while there, that was really disheartening for me, that I just couldn't do it, and I didn't know why I couldn't figure it out. And I'm sure lots of people will have lots of advice about how I could have done it differently, and I'm sure there's things I could have done better, and I'm just going to fix whatever the hell is going on here. What was I saying? I'm all over the place. I'm sure people will have a lot of advice about things that I could have done differently, but the thing I really want to address is I was so hard on myself about not being able to make this dressing gown and it's all self-inflicted pressure. Like, this isn't my job, this is my hobby, and I'm making it for a friend who really doesn't mind if it takes longer or if it's, looks slightly more handmade than professional, but I just want it to be perfect. And I really had to step back and allow myself not to have a finished project to show you guys this week, because this is my passion and I do want to make it interesting and fun, and I just feel like if I didn't have a finished pattern it wouldn't be a fun video. But hopefully it still was. And I just think I need to remind myself that this is just for fun, and if I'm putting so much pressure on myself it no longer becomes that. It's much more of a chore and a task to pick up difficult sections of patterns and actually figure them out. I'm back on track now. I'm well into making the mock-up, and I've gotten some wonderful fabric for it, which you'll see in a fabric and pattern haul that's coming next week. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Sorry that there is no kind of direction or overall finished project to work towards in this video. It really was a bit of a mixed bag of a week, and yeah, I had a lot of fun doing everything except the dressing gown. No offense, Roz, sorry. It was challenging in a good way. I learned a lot of stuff, but learning a lot of stuff is not always fun. Stay tuned for next week. I'm going to be doing a little bit of a pattern haul and a couple of the fabrics and bits and bobs that I picked up recently for my next projects, and talk a little bit about my planning and what I aim to make in the next little while. I want to try and get more targeted with what I want to make. Making stuff for other people has allowed me that time to really see what it is that I want to do and the gaps in my closet and that kind of thing. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next week.